We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien. Usually every Monday we do have a little 3 and out, 3 sports stories. We go through them, knock them out, and we're going to do something somewhat similar. We'll have at least, 3 or more different items to talk about, but they're all on the same theme. Last week I got involved in a disagreement on social media with a guy who is the, I don't even know what to call him. I mean, he's the defender and consultant for a guy running for Bruce Anderson's open state Senate seat, and it had to do with transgender males playing, or females, basically biological boys playing in girl sports. And I have said many times on this show that I will defend the right of anyone to be transgender, but I do believe that boys should not play in girl sports. However, I am on the Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose school board, and I will defend and I will stand up for the statutes and the state laws and what we were told to do by the Minnesota government and leadership about how we handle boys playing in girls' sports, and we have to allow it. Now, he was going on and on about citing different things and saying, no, you can't, you could do it, you could overthrow it, you could stand up to the state. No, you can't. See, this is a guy and his name, I'll give you the name, Dustin Greggy. He is a guy who, he's also a blogger, but he has opinions that he frames as fact. And it's great when you're able to do that and try to make it very convincing, but it's an opinion. It is not fact. Now, Jeff, as an attorney, he's an attorney who successfully sued the state of Minnesota and Walls back during COVID. Jeff, give a little background to people what that was, and we'll get into this.
Yeah, so, and I wanted to do this because I just want to clear up some of I got friends on all sides of this thing. I just want to kind of clear up how the way the law works on all this. So during the COVID shutdowns, and there's 2 things that happened that were relevant. When we had our clients, bars and restaurants that were shut down, we looked at what possible legal remedies we could use against the governor for, after 2 weeks to flatten the curve became 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks,
yep,
and so forth and so on. And we found an argument in the Minnesota state constitution that we thought would work, and we started working on the lawsuit. Now, the first version of the lawsuit didn't get filed because the governor's office got wind it was coming, and they backed off and rolled the dials back in. So the second time we shut them down, and later that fall, is when we ginned this thing up again. And we served it on him, on the attorney general, on behalf of the governor. And an hour later, he announced he was calling a press conference for 2 days later to roll back his dials. So we found a claim in state law that we thought had legs, and he blinked and cried uncle and walked away. Now, there were also some bar and restaurant owners that said, we're just going to open up and dare him to come after us. And I remember being at a meeting, and I said, "Don't do it. Join our lawsuit." It was a pretty low buy-in for smaller establishments, yep, and some just wanted to do it on principle. They were going to open up, and the Department of Health, backed by the Attorney General, went after those that opened up. And some of them came to me afterwards and wanted to join the lawsuit. I said, "It's too late. The predicate of our lawsuit is you're complying with the rules. You just think that this is too much. You've already proven that you've violated the rules. I can't have you." So some of those folks ended up, there were fines. There was one that even had some jail time, I think. So that's what happened. There were 2 different options at that point, and that's what happened. And so we turn to now with this issue.
Yes.
And there's what we have here, Bob, is a conflict between federal law and state law. And you as a school district, of course, get funds from both places.
And it's all school districts. It's not just mine.
Right, exactly. It is your school district, though, that got sued for going the other way. If I recall right, there was an issue with access to a bathroom or something, and you guys had to pay a settlement.
Well, you know what? We
something.
never went the other way. What we did accommodations, but they apparently weren't considered enough. But we're compliant. And as a matter of fact, everything. My recollection is everything in that lawsuit is now state law, and we're compliant. We were then, and we are now, just like every other district.
Right. But you were targeted with legal action
Yeah.
initially, so which makes your
And
school
would not
district
have
extra
won.
sensitive to
We
these
were told.
issues.
Yes, we were told we would not win.
Yeah, because so that you have, there was a lawsuit. So when Biden was in office, he attempted to amend Title IX to redefine gender to include transgender. There was a federal lawsuit brought by 4 states and some other groups, and there was an injunction issued. Those rules were struck down. That amendment was struck down. Okay, but at the same time, those same definitions, those same changes were made during the trifectas rule here in Minnesota to the Minnesota Human Rights Act. So under state law, it's what Biden was attempting to do at the federal level was codified into state law. And so if you don't follow state law, you can risk losing funding from the state and risking legal action. Keith Ellison loves to sue on this stuff, which more on that in a minute. So then after Trump takes over for his second term, he issues an executive order called Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. And it's building on this, the injunction against the Biden, the lawsuit against Biden, and says, it's, basically we're going to oppose male competition in women's sports, and we're going to be able to withhold federal funds from states that don't go along with this, or groups that don't go along with this, right? But that's all an executive order can do. An executive order just directs the federal government. You have Keith Ellison now filing a lawsuit against the administration saying that this executive order violates the U.S. Constitution and Title IX, and has said they made very clear they're not going to follow the executive order here in Minnesota, and they believe that the policy they have in place is still the law, which then puts school districts and school boards like yours in a pickle, because you have the feds saying one thing and you have the state saying another thing.
And that is the issue there, though, is if any school district were to say we're following Trump's executive order, they will be sued by the state, correct?
Yeah, not only will they be sued
lose
by
your funding.
The state, you'll lose funding, you'll get sued by the state, and my guess is, because I'm going to guess that you've been told by the legal counsel for the school board that what the way this all plays out, and that you wouldn't have insurance coverage as school board members if you were sued for violating state law and the Minnesota State High School League policy. So you're out there having to defend yourself.
And which is where us and every school district are at. And here's where it became the issue, because this Dustin's his pal is running for state senate seat, got the Republican endorsement months ago. He lost the school board election, by the way, very bitter afterward. I freely admit I'm not a fan of his, and he's not a fan of mine, and I say that because on his website still is he tries to portray himself as a crusader, called like Alpha News and to get a story done about him, and I responded in that. But he put out something that's still on his website, calling me a liar and an absolute coward, because I would not convince or persuade or want the school board to stand up to the state and do exactly what you're describing here. And I'm supporting I'm supporting Bradley Kurtz, and this guy, in my feeling, cannot be elected because he's a bad character. And he's looking out for himself and not for people. But this is his big platform to say, well, we got to get boys out of girls' sports. Well,
and
people
I
believe that, and I agree with that. They agree with it, and that's a prevailing opinion. But right now, you can't do it.
Yeah, that's the point. And just to be fully aware, I'm not taking a position on the whole.
No, I get it. No, you're
issue.
just
I
giving
know
us the background.
Involved,
Yeah,
everybody's friends, clients, whatever. But I'm just trying to. These are difficult issues to determine when what your legal path is.
Honestly, Jeff, I'll say this, and then we'll wrap up. I and every school district in the state is putting basically we are looking out for the benefit of all children in school, and we're not going to put at risk their funding that gives them the educations they're getting. I think these other people are being selfish, and they are not. They're grandstanding, and because he's not the only one like this that has his opinion. But until the state laws change, and the legislature did, and they failed. So,
well, I'll say this one last thing is so. The issue becomes, what can you do? You don't have standing to sue, to go on the offensive and be in court because you have to have standing in order to bring a lawsuit. You don't, the argument would be, what's your harm? What why are you here? A court would dismiss that, right?
Yes.
So in order to challenge this, you'd have to risk getting sued personally in the hopes that which I no doubt the Attorney General would bring this in.
We were told that, by the way, we could be sued personally too.
Yeah, in state court with 16 years of DFL governors appointing judges, your odds aren't that good. There is a lawsuit right now in federal court that was brought. If you remember the story a few months ago,
yes, the softball player,
the girls' softball game where the Champlain Park team that had the transgender pitcher beat Farmington. It's some of the players on the Farmington team, backed by a national group, have sued the Minnesota State High School League in federal court for an order that the state rules do violate Title IX. So we're going to have this fight and resolve this conflict, and that's probably the best way to do it. But right now, in terms of school board's ability to do anything, your hands are pretty much tied. And to make the argument that because you aren't willing to be personally sued over this issue, that you somehow support the opposite position, that's just a little bit illogical.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you for giving some clarity to this. As always, greatly appreciated. Attorney Jeff O'Brien. Take a quick break. The BS Show will be right back.